Ever play those old educational computer games? You know, the ones where you're trying to, like, teach a cartoon dinosaur about fractions, but the graphics are so bad you can barely tell what's going
Well,
on?
yeah, I vaguely remember those. I don't think my dinosaur ever figured out fractions.
Right. And I remember thinking back then, wow, technology is going to revolutionize education. But honestly, sometimes it felt like it just made things more complicated. But what we're seeing now with AI in special education, that feels different. It feels like we're finally at a point where technology can not just keep up with the demands of the classroom, but actually get ahead of them.
It's definitely an interesting time to be looking into this, that's for sure.
So for this deep dive, we've got a ton of research articles, news stories, even some firsthand accounts from teachers who are already using AI in their classrooms.
It's amazing to see how much is already happening.
It really is.
Mhm.
And our mission for this deep dive, to really understand how all this new tech can help special education teachers, who are already superhuman, by the way, do even more for their students.
And it's not just about making their jobs easier, though that's a huge part of it. It's about creating a learning environment where each and every student, no matter what their needs are, feels supported and empowered to succeed.
Which is an amazing goal. But let's be real, special education has always been one of those fields where teachers are juggling like a million things at once.
Absolutely. It's incredibly demanding. In fact, one of the sources we have really highlights that. It talks about this one teacher who spends hours every single week just updating individual education plans, IEPs for all her
Wow,
students.
just the IEPs alone.
Yeah, and that's on top of everything else. Lesson planning, assessments, meeting with parents, you name it.
It's like that saying, the days are long, but the years are short. But in this case, it sounds like the days and the years are long.
Yeah, it's definitely not a job for the faint of heart.
And that's where I'm really curious to see how AI can change things, because those IEPs, those are so important, but man, they sound like a ton of work.
They are. And it's not even just, the paperwork side of it. It's constantly having to keep track of how each student is doing, figuring out if they're struggling, figuring out if you need to change your teaching approach. It's a lot.
So for a teacher who's got all that going on, plus a classroom full of kids, each with their own, learning style, their own needs, where does AI even fit in?
Well, one of the big things people are talking about is personalized learning, which basically means tailoring the whole learning experience to each student as an individual. And AI could actually make that happen in ways we could never do before.
Okay, but like, what does that actually look like in the classroom?
So say you've got a student with dyslexia, right? They're having a tough time keeping up with reading assignments. AI could actually track how well they're reading, how much they're understanding in real time as it's happening. And it could figure out the exact spots where they're getting stuck.
So it's not just, oh, the student's having trouble. It's, we know exactly where they're tripping up.
Exactly. And then here's the really cool part. Based on all that data, the AI can actually suggest ways to help that specific student. Maybe they need extra practice with phonics. Maybe listening to audiobooks would be good. Maybe they just need another student to read with them sometimes.
It's like each kid has their own little AI tutor, adjusting to how they're doing.
That's a great way to put it. And the research really suggests that this kind of approach, really paying attention to each student's needs, can make a huge difference, especially for students who learn differently.
Which makes sense because even the best teacher in the world can't be everywhere at once, right? But in a way, AI can be like having extra eyes and ears all over the classroom.
Exactly. Which lets the teacher focus on the things that really only a human can do. Building those relationships with the kids, getting them excited about learning, making sure everyone feels supported.
Okay, so that's the personalized learning part. But what about the actual tech itself? What kind of cool AI tools are we talking about here? Some of this stuff sounds like it's straight out of science fiction.
It really does, doesn't it? But it's not science fiction. It's happening right now. Like speech recognition AI, that's already making a big difference.
So we're talking about like helping kids who are nonverbal actually communicate.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, one of the articles we read, it was talking about a school that's using AI for just that. They've got this software that helps students who have trouble speaking, be able to communicate more easily.
How does that even work?
So let's say you have a student who uses sign language. Before, they might have needed an interpreter, or they might not have been able to join in on activities where everyone had to speak. But now, with this software, when the student signs, it gets turned into spoken words right away, so they can talk to their classmates, talk to the teacher, just like anyone else.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like we're breaking down those barriers that have always been there.
Totally. And it's not just about, convenience. It's about making sure everyone feels included, like they really belong in the classroom.
That's what I think is so cool about this whole thing. AI isn't about replacing teachers. It's about giving them, like, superpowers so they can reach every single student.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's about giving more power to the teachers and the students, so everyone can do more than they thought was possible.
And it kind of feels like we're just getting started,
Yeah.
Like, who knows what AI will be able to do for special education in a few years.
It's really exciting to think about. Who knows what amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner.
Well, that's our deep dive into the world of AI and special education. We hope you learned something new and interesting and maybe even got a little inspired. If you have any experience with this stuff, with AI in education, we'd love to hear about it. Share your stories on social media. Let's keep this conversation going. And thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.